Hey, anybody want to eat a credit card with me? Yeah, I didn't think so. But what if I told you that we're all consuming the weight of a credit card in microplastics every single week? It's crazy, right? Just something that happened to come up in a great conversation I had recently with a friend of mine, Dylan Drudul from Profile Products. It was great getting a chance to catch up with Dylan, and I hope you enjoyed the pod. But first, let me give a big shout out to our sponsor, Digital Stormwater. They do digital marketing for stormwater people by stormwater people. And if you would like to learn more, you can visit them at digitalstormwater.com, and they can help you increase your online visibility and footprint because best known beats best every single day. All right, enjoy the pod. Somebody cue that intro music. Hey, welcome back, everyone, to a new episode of the Stormwater World podcast. We're here today with Mr. Dylan Drudul from Profile Products. He's a regional business manager of the Mid-Atlantic and Northeast area of the country. Dylan, thanks so much for joining me on the podcast. Appreciate you.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Ty. Appreciate it as well.
We got some stuff to talk about, and I'm pretty excited about it. But before we do that, why don't you tell everybody, I feel like I know a lot of folks, and we've known each other, and I've seen you, grow in your career. But let's go down memory lane a little bit and let everybody know a little bit more about who you are, other than just the regional business manager for Profile. Like, tell us a little bit about yourself and your stormwater journey.
Absolutely, yeah. So, grew up in Central Pennsylvania, and I actually went to college out in Western Pennsylvania at Slippery Rock University. Got into the environmental science side of things, right? I actually took a course in geology, got into geoscience, so I kind of melded the two together. So I had an environmental geoscience degree background. First got into the natural gas drilling industry, didn't really like it. So I moved down to the Baltimore, D.C. area in 2011, started doing water quality sampling, as well as selling core logs, core matting, stream restoration products, reforestation products, things like that. It was a company that had a couple different departments in it there. And then after that, went to the City of Rockville, did some regulatory enforcement and inspections and E&S and stormwater type inspections, and was there for about 8 years. And then most recently, in the last 2 years, came over to Profile Products as their regional business manager for the Mid-Atlantic and Northeast, like you said. So I've been in the industry on both the public and the private sector. So I pull a lot of different knowledge from those different types of backgrounds, right? There's definitely different skill sets for public versus private. And I think that I got that well-rounded career out of that. So.
Yeah, I think that's great. I think you make a good point of just being on both sides. You've been on both sides of the table. You've been the guy fighting the fight and looking for the products, and you've been and you are the guy that's hey, I've got the solution. So I think that gives you a very good perspective on a lot of the different things we're going to talk about today. So let's get it. You had mentioned you wanted to talk about erosion control technologies, but specifically kind of changing people's mindset, right? Or a paradigm shift on how we're going to get our industry to move forward. Well, what did you mean by that when you put that in the show notes? Like, let's unpack that a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it all started where when I started attending ICA conferences back in 2014, I would go through the expo hall, I'd see all these products, but I'd come back to my my office and I'm doing my inspections and I'm not seeing these products in the field, right? So right. I started bringing brochures back. Hey, talking to my staff, city engineers and my managers. Hey, I want to trial these. I want to use them. Maybe we could get some approvals and really try to just get more innovation in the field, because you see these great ideas, but until you get those approvals, you really can't use it from a regulatory, personnel standpoint. We're not really in the business of sticking our necks out to get product approvals for private industry. We have a permit. We have a permit that we've got to, stay in compliance with and make sure we're doing everything in our best practice to, mitigate sediment from getting into storm drains and, all sorts of different types of pollutants. If it fails, it's on us, so it was hard. It was hard to get those approvals, but trying to really spearhead that in my past career was one of the big initiatives. And I did get a lot of trials and pilot studies pushed through, in the city and under that jurisdiction. And we really, I think, moved some of those innovative products forward to really get the approvals that we see nowadays coming down the pipeline. So, it was something I've always been passionate about. And, there's just a lot of stuff in our industry that's been used for 30, 40 years. And I'm not saying it doesn't work, but it's definitely been improved upon and can be improved upon further to just, push our industry, to the next level. So.
Yeah, I'm one of those people. I've always if I ask you why and your answer is it's because we've always done it that way, it makes me want to vomit. I mean, I'll be honest. It's like, really? Come on, you gotta come at me with more than just it's because we've always done it that way.
Right.
You make some good points on that. And I think, as somebody, you're working your job and whatnot, and here you got these ideas. Was there anything, specific or key that you feel like helped you push your initiatives forward when you were on that side of the table? Or you're seeing all these things at the conferences, you're bringing them back, you're not seeing them in the field, you're doing all these things. What was like the tipping point for you? Was it, to help out maybe some of our manufacturers that listen, or the people that are developing products, or that person that was like yourself that is scared, I mean, I hate to say the word scared, but it can be scary, because like you said, if you try to do it a different way and it doesn't work, well, now you've got egg on your face.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah.
And you don't know how much grace you're going to get, or if they're just going to be like, see, and then now you're back to square one. Was there anything that really was a tipping point in any of your project, or you can think of that made a difference that you'd like to share?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think just the failures of our standard practices is what all I really need to know. Look at what we're doing. Here's the status quo, right? And we're
Oh, man.
doing this stuff and we're still having, right? It's not a all end all. And hey, check this out.
Man,
No, that really was
Dylan,
the way I
man.
got to it,
Really? That is not what I thought you were gonna say. You're like, oh well, this company did this testing, or we saw this opportunity here, and you're like, you just said that, like, well, we can't do any worse. Like, this is not working. This right here is not working. So why not try this, because we can't do any worse? That was your pitch. All right, man.
But those products have limitations,
right?
They're not working,
Right.
Things increased precipitation events. Take inlet protection, for example.
Okay.
The filter fabric with the frame and the stone. Those typical, like, build it yourself inlet protection, non-proprietary, nothing like that. You get a big rain event. That's not, you're still dumping all that water right through that inlet, right in that overflow past that inlet protection. Other ones have higher flow through rates with more sediment retention and reduction, and you're able to mitigate both of those issues, right? So it's not that they don't work. They have limitations which have been approved upon in the last, 20 years, 15 years, 10 years, and we're able to still capture that sediment or those pollutants and still discharge the water cleaner, and we've improved upon that same practice, right? So it was that, taking that back to people that I worked with and said, look, I'm having this issue in the field, this product, yeah, it works great, during X, circumstances, but if this happens, increased precipitation or whatever other variable, then we are having this issue, and there's products out there that are able to handle this. And so that really was the way I started changing minds. I said, all right, well, why don't we try, one of these, these proprietary products on this inlet? And we tried it, and they're like, I would document it. I would do a case study. I would, not only would the manufacturer, the sales rep get that information, mine would get that, and we'd work together, right? I always felt like there was this animosity between the regulatory community and the proprietary, like, development products type community, right? These guys didn't trust these guys. They're too salesy, and vice versa. And I said, why can't we all just work together to better this industry and to move it forward, and not see it as so combative, and we're fighting against these approvals. So and I really brought a lot of that to when I was on the international board, and talking about how we can create committees of regulatory as well as these proprietary sales types companies to work together, maybe get some kind of thing going. And that was a big initiative of mine as well. So
when you mentioned that, I don't know if we said that earlier, that you were part of the IECA's the board for the ICA, right? I don't know
Yeah,
if we
so I
mentioned that.
sat on the
You and I did before we started recording, but yeah, so just for the listeners,
sure, yeah.
talk a little bit
So
about that experience. Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. I've been heavily involved in ICA, great association. I've made so many contacts, colleagues, as well as lifelong friends of this association. But I first got in the board of directors for the Mid Atlantic chapter back in 2014. Quickly moved into the president's role. I spent 3 years as the president of the Mid Atlantic chapter up until I think it was 2018. And then from there, I just pivoted right into the being on the international board, and I served a 3-year term there as well. So. Worked very closely with the reunification efforts of Region 1 and Region 2. So now we're kind of, melded back together as a truly world organization and not a regional type organization. I'm, pretty proud of that as an initiative I did while I was there.
Gotcha.
Mm-hmm.
So no, one of the other points, unless you had some more thoughts on just, the technologies in general, that you had made on our notes, is that I guess there's this discussion around microplastics and a concern around, polypropylene and plastic based erosion control technologies. So I guess the conversation is, here we are trying to make water better, keeping stuff out of the water, filtering stuff from the water. And oh my gosh, are our devices actually polluting the water with microplastics? What are your thoughts on that situation? Because that seems like, dang it, we can't win.
Absolutely, right? I mean, so when blankets were first developed, back in the 70s, 80s, 90s, it was developed with all of the best intentions, right? We've got a problem, sediment pollution. We've got a solution, blankets. We can blanket the environment and stabilize that land surface and all that while we revegetate. But there was plastic in them, right? I mean, eventually they had plastic in them. The first initial blankets did not. But, as these plastics break down and degrade, they just become microplastics and nanoplastics. And we had, like I said, the best intentions in mind, but we're actually making an issue from solving another one, right? And so, a big initiative I do nowadays, especially working for Profile and having, 100% bio-based, all natural biodegradable products or base raw products in our products is really that push to try to remove that intentional introduction of plastics into our environment, right? So there are solutions out there nowadays, such as, hydraulic erosion control products that are able to get the same level of performance that we're looking for and not have to intentionally introduce, polypropylene into the natural environment while trying to get that site revegetated or control erosion in that area. So, it's weird. I read in an article the other day that said you actually consume about 5 grams of plastic every week. It's a credit card worth of plastic. I mean, isn't that wild to think that we're eating that much and drinking and breathing that much plastic in on a weekly basis? It's the next thing that we really are going to have to think about after our climate change issue, right? That we're trying to tackle.
Yummy.
That's a whole another podcast that we can deal with.
Oh my gosh, that's yummy, right? Well, but we could just kind of go crazy on that, right? Let's go get that. Where's that McDonald's burger that's been, in the wrapper for 50 years or something like that? It looks the same or whatever. So it's like that. We got plastic. We got, we're drinking plastic now. Oh my gosh, you're freaking me out. You're freaking all the listeners out. No, I think we all realize this is an issue. I think it's great that we have at least identified that it is an issue and that we've got solutions that can hopefully stop it or at least slow it down until we can address it more thoroughly. Because obviously the plastic, the water bottles and whatnot getting into our water or whatnot, like the actual what we are supposed to be doing from a stormwater compliance standpoint or just water quality standpoint, that helps get some of the plastic out, but we also got to make sure we're not shooting ourselves in the foot, right?
But our industry is probably a drop in the bucket, right? It's not like violators out there, but hey, anything that we can all do to try to move that dial is
I mean, it is what it is. Once you realize it, you can't unrealize it, right? Once you go, oh, this stuff is, it degrades over time. Like we probably need to figure out a better way. Well, and you had mentioned some better ways, and I know you're like, I don't want to be salesy and all that, but and I told you, I don't care about that. I think sales is an educational process. I think there's folks on here that may not, my hopes is that, we're reaching people that may not get to go to a conference. So they may not get the opportunity to go buy a profile booth, talk to someone like yourself or one of your counterparts and learn about what's out there. So you had mentioned some of the profile products and being biodegradable or not being, polypropylene based. Do you have, and I put you on the spot a little bit, but do you have a case study or something you're working on right now that you could kind of walk us through and kind of share with us some of the products that you guys have and a solution that you came up with?
Yeah, absolutely. So, a lot of our products, well, let me back up for a second. We're the world's largest manufacturer of hydromulches, right? So, whether those are wood, paper, blend based, those are the typical ones that we would see on projects that a lot of people will be working on. But we also manufacture some engineered mulches, which are a little bit more robust, able to handle more extreme applications, slope applications. When I'm talking to people about it, I basically tell them those types of products are spray on blankets, right? So you're able to spray it on, cap the land surface, any application a blanket's able to handle. We have a product that is an equivalent to those types of applications. So you're still being able to get that product performance. In fact, sometimes better product performance. You're not introducing those microplastics and polypropylenes to the environment there. And we're just, giving everyone a better solution for the same problem that we've been facing for how many years, that we've been blanketing the environment. So, we're basically just, like I said, a spray on blanket. And that's really what our solution is. Yeah.
So on that, like, are there certain geographical areas where your products probably better to use than others, or are you guys just anywhere there's construction site that needs to have stabilization or whatnot? Like,
Sure.
how does that work?
Anywhere that we need where there's earth disturbance, right? So anywhere you're trying,
Anywhere.
I would say, our products are more necessary or needed in maybe more environments that have more precipitation, right? So drier environments, you're not as worried as much about water quality. You might get slower revegetation. It's still an issue. It's still a problem that needs solving, but a lot of our more engineered products are probably necessary for, areas such as the Mid-Atlantic and the Northeast and the Southeast, where we get a lot of rain. And when it comes strong, right? So I think those are the areas that our products can really shine. I'm not trying to diminish the applications elsewhere within the world, but
no.
Yeah,
That's fine.
that's where our
no, I want you to, I'm on literally sell it to me, Dylan. Like, I want to hear what you've got so that the listeners can be like, cool, let me go check it out. Right. Because that's the whole game. So, because I'm going to hit you with the next one, which is like, how do you fit budget wise? Like, what do you guys offer to where you can, because that's unfortunately, a lot of times it's 80% of the game, right? Like, especially when you're trying to go from, again, that mind shift we talked about earlier, that paradigm shift, and like, hey, we've done it this way, it works, but it could be better. And then here's this other opportunity or this other option, can we test this out? So what would you say from a budget standpoint on, comparables and that aspect?
I get that question a lot, and I always tell people
Yeah.
there's a lot of variables that go into that, right?
Right. Yeah, sure.
What application you're using it on, what type of application rate. So mulches are applied at pounds per acre. It depends on the application rate that is recommended for your certain scenario. Apples to apples, a lot of our mulches are going to be very cost competitive to its typical approaches with, blankets. It might not be as cheap as blowing straw or hay mulch on a site. That's obviously very affordable, which is why a lot of contractors do it. That's readily available for pickup. You don't need a machine and all that. But when you start factoring in the labor of, say, rolling blankets with a 6-8 man crew and being able to spray something from a hydro seeder with a 2-man crew, the labor is going to really factor in a lot, especially nowadays. There's a labor, availability issue going on. So that's a big thing that a lot of contractors are taking into consideration, as well as how many acres of stabilization you can get done in a day. Hydraulic erosion control applications are much more efficient than rolling blankets and pinning them and broadcast seating on them and all the things that come along with it and the steps to get those installed. With a hydraulic approach, it's very quick, very efficient. Some products you get everything down in one shot, including whatever the topsoil specification calls for. We have a product that is an alternative to topsoil, so they can actually cut out spreading topsoil, seeding, putting fertilizer down, and a stabilization product. They can cut all four of those steps and put them basically translate into a one-step process. So we've got pretty cool products that can also solve that problem as well. So the efficiency standpoint also is a really big cost savings on some of these projects, which is really why our products lend themselves so well to large areas of disturbance, such as landfills, solar farms, all those types of mega projects, big warehouses, which is the new thing nowadays, right? Going up everywhere. Yeah. So our products are very efficient when it comes to those large earth disturbances.
I got you. So so then would you say, so then let's kind of recap that. The larger the product, the more cost effective you become.
Absolutely. Our products are built on economies of scale. Yeah. So the bigger it is, the more cost savings. Yeah. That you're going to get,
Makes sense. And then, no, go ahead.
I'm going to say, you have a little quarter acre, half acre, probably not going to be as cost competitive. You got to get a machine out here with a contractor.
Right.
It's not going to make as much sense. But once you reach an acre, maybe a little more, it's absolutely cost competitive. Yeah.
And then how do you combat, or I shouldn't say combat. We had talked about that. It really shouldn't even be combative. It's like, so again, I'm asking the questions, trying to get the education over here, as I feel like everybody should, and not be concerned, right? Like, Dylan, none of us that sell stuff, I've sell stuff my whole life, and we don't have a magic wand. We're not going to you're not going to get under the ether. It's an educational process that we're just trying to take people through. So how do you discuss with somebody that's just, they're still using the straw, right? Mm-hmm. They've got a bigger project. How do you talk them off that ledge, right? And say, hey, why don't you try this? What are those other benefits versus the old way, right? The traditional way, the way we've always done it, compared to using not even just profile products, but like you said, just in general. How do you attack that?
I'm a big on education, right? I do a lot of presentations and lunch and learns, and I speak at, regional conferences, international conferences like the IECA. And I just enjoy educating. So I think making people understand the benefits that they would get from, changing their mindset and changing their approach to their typical problems is what they're looking for as well, right? They don't want some salesy approach. They want to be educated and they want to make their own decision, I'll back up and just looking at blankets, for an example, right? They absolutely have their place in our industry. They're not going anywhere. And I talk sometimes down about them, but that's because, they're just my biggest competitor. But, they absolutely have their place. And there's applications where they're just better, right? I'll take, for example, like a stream restoration project, with big, thick core matting that you need to last 10 years. Our products aren't going to last 10 years, right? So, just like there's a place for them, right? But showing people just the benefits on the other side of it and what, another tool for their toolbox, I like to say,
right.
and showing them why that might be better suited for a typical, or an application versus another is really kind of how I change those mindsets.
Yeah. And that's what I wanted. I just want everybody to see, so there is a lot, as with every project, and everybody probably knows that just listening to this podcast, that there's so many variables involved that you got to be willing to reach out. You got to be able to reach out to those resources. Dylan's a great resource. You can tell, his heart's in the right, your heart's in the right place, with the educational approach, and that you're just going to take them down the path. Like, here's what we've got. This is why we think you should use it for this project. Or you're going to be like, what, that project's, it's probably a little too small. You may not get the same, there's benefit there, but the cost may not be where you want it to be. So again, reach out, if you've got a question, you've got a project, you're looking for a different way. I'm not even going to say a better way, but a different way. Maybe, you're getting old results, or you don't like the results you're getting and you want to pilot or champion a different way to do it. there's folks like, yourself out there. They could just reach out to you, and I'm sure you're willing to have that conversation, lunch and learns, all those things. Speaking of which, what's the best way, Dylan, for people to get hold of you if they want to get hold of you? LinkedIn, email, email.
I'm an email guy, email or text. I'll pick up the phone, but I'm usually on the go, pretty busy. So if you drop me an email, I'll make sure to get back to you. But that's probably the best way.
You heard that, everybody. He said he will respond to his emails. I don't know if anybody to date on this podcast has been willing to put their name behind that. We'll have his email in the show notes for people to reach out if you've got questions. Any other thoughts? Just like, in general, where you see the industry headed? You've been doing this for how many years now? How many years have you been in the industry?
Going on 12 years now. Yeah.
Well, we're same. So what's the next 10 years look like? You want to turn over your magic, your crystal ball? You got any thoughts on that before we go?
I don't know. I'm happy where I'm at right now. We're going to see how, my profile career goes, but I'm really happy with what I'm doing now. I'm enjoying, like I said, educating people. I get to talk to a lot of different people on a weekly, daily basis sometimes, and, interact with a lot of people, which I just love talking to them. So, I don't know where it goes from here, but I'm very happy with how my career has progressed since I first got into it.
Right. Yeah. Any final thoughts on or any tips or ideas you want to share with the other stormwater nerds out there? Things that they should be looking out or doing, or any thoughts on that? Other than join the ICA. I know that's probably better. Join the ICA. Outside of that, what you got?
Keep an open mind, in this industry. There's so many cool things out there that people are doing, and research and studies and product development, R&D. I mean, it's rapidly evolving. So it's a really exciting time to be in this industry right now. And I'm excited to see what comes out over the next decade or so, and what, different types of products, take the forefront in our industry. So, I'm a product geek, and I'm a stormwater geek. So I just like when people are innovating and coming up with new solutions. So that's my thing.
Same. I love all the stuff. I look like checking all the stuff out. So I hope everyone here will check it all out. Dylan, we'll put all your contact information in the show notes. I want to thank you so much for taking the time. I know we're creeping up on the holidays, so thank you so much for taking a few minutes out of your day to join us on the podcast. Appreciate you.
Yeah, thank you, Ty. Appreciate you.
Thank you for listening to this episode. We couldn't do this without all of you that are listening out there. If you'd like to be on the podcast, or if you know somebody that would like to be on the podcast, please let us know so we can continue to grow this podcast and the information that we're providing out there for the folks in the stormwater industry. You can reach out to us at stormwaterworld.com. There's some forms on there, or you can reach out to me directly at ty@stormwaterworld.com. That's my email address. And we appreciate each and every one of you. And we hope you're having a great day in your stormwater world.